Are you doing your bookkeeping properly? And who's doing it? That's a double-barreled question. And of course I have a point to make, don't I? I have an opinion on this. Now, your bookkeeping is important. If you're doing them properly, your books, then it's a very valuable tool to help you understand how the profitability is going in your business. And that's important, right? Not just because it's nice to know how much money you're making, but because it's important to know if you're not making money sooner rather than later. If you can look in your accounting system and understand what's going on, know it's up to date, be confident to draw conclusions about what it's telling you, you can get early warnings if something's not going how it should be. It gives you time to fix a problem before it becomes a serious problem and costs you a lot of money and drops you in the shit. Now, if you don't know and there's a problem, things can get worse and worse over time. Problems compound. They get bigger and bigger, like compounding interest. If you're losing money or you're not making very much money, what you can find you end up doing is you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, or rather, you're robbing the tax man to pay the wages, or that kind of thing. And that, in turn, leads to debt accumulating, can lead to cash flow problems, and that's not fun. You don't want that. We all don't want that. You need to understand your numbers. You need to know if every month is profitable. You need to know if it's as profitable as it should be, as you expected. You need to understand that if you put, a 30% gross margin on every job, we expect to see that in your book, don't we? And if it's not, you have an early warning system. You need to know also if every job is profitable, like I just said, don't you? You need to use your numbers to help you find out why there's a profit problem and where that problem is in your business. I'm going to stop myself from diving too deep into that hole. This is about who should be doing your books and how important it is for them to be accurate. But this is why your books are important. And if someone comes to me and says, I'm interested in business coaching, and says, I'm not as profitable as I should be, John, what we do is we go and look in their bookkeeping system. That's where we start. So your accounting system should be, same thing, right? Bookkeeping, accounting, same thing. Your bookkeeping or accounting system, your MyOb, your Xero, your QuickBooks, should be a live, up-to-date view of the lifeblood of your business, which of course is the money, for you to use regularly to make sure everything is going as it should. That statement carefully and make sure I read it. For many people, that's not the case. For many of the people who come to me, that's very much not the case. Doing the books can often be something as an afterthought for people, for compliance, but you've got other shit to do. And people do it for compliance. If you don't do your tax returns properly, you can get in trouble. So we do it for that reason, rather than for the reason of it being a useful tool to help you run your business. Now, for many people, whether you're doing the books yourself or whether someone else does it for you, I'll come to that in a moment, they're not very useful in that respect. I see people's books all the time, of course, and they're often all over the place. We can't easily understand what the costs are or where they should be, if you see what I mean. Things get coded to the wrong place, that kind of thing. Now, if you're just doing the bookkeeping for compliance purposes, that doesn't matter so much. You'll still have the right amount of GST and tax. But once you start wanting to understand your numbers and what money is going where, it does matter. Now, another thing that happens often is they're not up to date. You or your bookkeeper maybe does everything once a month or from time to time. So if we want to look in them, they could be, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks old, which means they're not very helpful. If you've got 50 items to reconcile, the numbers that we see in your profit and loss don't tell you much at all. So that's an important thing to consider as well. And this is really common. I rarely see accurate and up-to-date books, and I see a lot of them, like I said. So the question, of course, is, are yours useful to you? And if they're not, what are you going to do about it? Are they correct? Are they up to date? Now, I think reconciled weekly is probably sufficient. If it says 88 items need reconciling, like I said, it's not helping you at all. So they should be correct. They should be up to date. And if I'm your coach, I'll be pushing you to get that happening. Who should be the one to do it? There's an obvious question, isn't there here? I'm going somewhere, right? Not you is the correct answer. So not you, somebody else. You're probably not very good at it. I'm sure that you could do it, or that you could figure it out. I don't think it's harder than doing a trade, but I'm not very good at mine. I don't do mine. Right? I'm not patient enough. I find it frustrating or annoying, fiddly. I would rather spend the time on other work that's going to make me money, not that's counting my money and making sure I get those numbers. And I think that should be true for you as well. I would rather you weren't doing it yourself, and I would rather you had someone else do it and you focused on looking after the people who need you. You're a technical and sales expert in your business. Your customers need you, your people need you. You need to be making that stuff happen. You need to be finding and winning work for your team to do and making sure they can do it properly, not entering data into your bookkeeping system. You also have a business to run, but you're not. So you need to know these numbers and be able to use them and understand them to make decisions, like I've been saying, not to be the one entering them in and reconciling and doing all that stuff. Now, an obvious candidate for the someone else, not you, is of course a bookkeeper. You can have somebody in-house doing your books, an employee, and you can have an external bookkeeping person, a self-employed person or a business, a company. And there's lots of them about, there's lots of good ones, and there's lots of less good ones. So my advice to you is interview carefully and check that they understand a bit about business, preferably a bit about trades, businesses, and your business. The pitch for my partner, Michelle, she runs a bookkeeping business for tradies, for my tradies, my clients. So there's an option for you. But if you already have a bookkeeper, your first option, I think, should be to get your bookkeeper to have your books done correctly and to have them up to date. So I would do that rather than coming looking for someone like Michelle. Michelle's team and your bookkeeper could set your books up the way I like them so that you and I could use them to figure out what's going on. They should update them weekly. They should be able to talk to you like Michelle's team will. They'll call your debtors for you. They'll speak to you regularly and help you make sure, understand what's going on. So if that's something you want to explore, comment books and I'll introduce Michelle. And I've written a guide for what your bookkeeping options are. And I've made a little nice table so you can compare, in-house and external bookkeeper and those kinds of options. So if you want that, put guide and I'll get that sent to you. See you later.